everyone. Thank you so much for listening to Horror/Stories. My name is Sarah. My co-host Nenya is on vacation this week, so our friend JC Murphey has generously agreed to join me to try to push our limits with the 2019 film Impetigore, written and directed by Joko Anwar. JC Murphey, who you may have met on our Season 1, Episode 11 on Misery, is a lover of romance, but a writer of dystopian fiction. Collectively, she has been writing for 20 years and stockpiling all sorts of spooky, gory projects that she is slowly dragging back out into the light of day. Her novel Don't Fear the Reaper won Best Dystopian and Best Fantasy in the 2024 Indieverse Awards, and her novella, Dorian Gray, is up for the 2025 Indieverse Awards for Book of the Year and Best Novella. And her newest dark fantasy novel, Earthmover, comes out on June 28th. Welcome, JC.
Hey, thank you so much for having me again. I'm so excited to be back. I miss Nenya, but I'm super jealous. Nenya, when you hear this, super jealous of all your pictures.
I know, she's on this cruise right now and is giving me major
No
FOMO.
invitation? How rude.
And looks like having the time of her life.
I'll catch you next time, Nenya. You can't escape
Nenya
us.
saw the name of this movie and was like, no.
I'll pass.
She was like, you can do that one without me.
Too funny.
She also, The Ugly Stepsister, she was like, I saw this commercial and thought of you, Sarah, and I don't want to watch it, but I think you should.
I saw this horror movie trailer and thought of you.
She's like, it looks like really gross body horror.
Oh. Yeah,
Reminded
I
me of
haven't seen
you.
The trailer, but I've heard it's good. Has it come out yet?
Yes,
Just
Ben
came
and
out.
my husband and I watched it, and I loved it. It was super
Yeah.
gross, but super fun. Honestly, not that scary, but very gross.
Nice. I'm gonna have to go
So-
check it out.
I definitely recommend it. What is new with you since we last spoke? You have a new book coming out.
Yes, Earthmover has been consuming my life for the last 6 months, and I'm kind of like relieved, but also kind of tired relief to finally have it out. It's definitely been my most ambitious work, so I'm really excited to finally have it out in the world. So, and then I just finished up my Kickstarter for it, where it was funding the special edition version. So I'm not printing I'm not offering hardcover for like general purchase. It was just for the Kickstarter. So I was busy designing that. So
That's
I'm finally done
awesome.
with it.
I
Off my
feel like
shoulders.
your character art is so beautiful. Like the special edition stuff you do, you really like put a lot of thought into it, and it is worth it.
Thank you. Yeah, the artists, they always crush it. I'm always like, what does it feel like to be one of the chosen ones, just to be able to draw more than stick figures?
I loved your original covers, but I am so obsessed with the new edition, the new covers.
Yeah,
for
the
Don't
black
Fear the
and white.
Reaper.
It's nice,
yeah,
right?
It's so good. So it's been a while since we talked last, and I think we talked a lot about your writing process and about like the inspiration for your books. But one question I don't think we had a chance to ask you about, just both with your new book Earthmover and with your Don't Fear the Reaper series, which also I guess Dorian Gray is part of Don't Fear the Reaper. What do you hope that readers take away from your books?
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit in our last session, but a lot of my female characters are just very unconventional in the expectations that are set for them, like in the story. Like they don't follow the typical, damsel in distress or can't solve problems on their own or rely on someone else. Like usually they're the ones moving the plot. They're the ones that are setting the standards, and sometimes the male character figures it out and goes along with it, and sometimes they're just kind of like left in the dust. But it's just a lot of just empowering of following what you believe in and not letting someone else's perception or expectation of you define the decisions that you make. And that's something that I try to portray in a lot of my characters. But in a more, I want to say like forward thinking, because I feel like, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I'm like a hardcore feminist, but I do believe in equality in gender roles and societal standards. And I feel like, especially with everything going on in the world today, that's not really a thing. And
Yeah.
so I just kind of hope that my books end up being something that, like regardless of who you are or what you identify as, that you find the strength. Because, I mean, really, you have to find the strength in yourself, especially with, like I said before, like all the crazy stuff. Like you
Yeah.
really have to find the motivation in yourself to be able to go and pursue things that you want, because
Right.
no one's gonna help you out for free,
Right.
so just finding that like intrinsic motivation. And so that's something I
And
really hope that a lot of my readers are able to take away from that. It's like, being able to motivate yourself and empower yourself to do what you believe in.
I think that is such an important lesson, and just being able to define what your core values are and to listen to like your moral compass, like stay true to what your values are and your priorities are, regardless of what other people are telling you.
Exactly, like block out the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a really important lesson. And I love that representation in your books.
Thank you. I try my best. And I feel like, too, I'm speaking a lot to myself when I write that in those books, because I feel like I'm just a people pleaser, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
do what
Mm-hmm.
people expect of me. It's like the only child syndrome times
Yeah.
10. So I feel like a lot of those is me just kind of like talking to myself. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like being an author has really pushed me more than anything else I've ever done to just, stay true to my moral compass of what I believe in. Because it's
Yeah.
so easy to, especially as an author, like it's so easy to just want to cater to what's popular and write to market and, write stuff that you're not really interested in just because people are going to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like being an author has been the most real thing that I've tried to do for myself. It's stuff that I'm interested in, that I would like to put out in the world for other people to who have similar interests to me to want
Yeah.
to find. So it's just
And
a
by
matter of
staying
finding those
true to
people.
yourself and not writing to trend, you are the antithesis of Paul Sheldon.
Oh, Paul Sheldon. I also don't want no beating to my knees with the
Oh my
typewriter either. So try to avoid that if I can.
Let's hope. But kind of speaking of that, if someone were to ask you for 3 horror book or movie recommendations, which I know is such a hard question because it is so broad, but are there any that stand out to you as ones that you'd like to recommend in addition to yours?
Yeah. Um, Funnily enough, I feel like I watch more horror movies than read horror books. And I don't know if it's because my imagination is like so active. It's so much more scary for me to read books.
Hmm.
Is that like you too?
Oh my gosh, I don't read as many horror books, but that's just because I'm a slow reader.
I don't got no time
um,
for this. I need something snappy in 2 hours.
I should get more of the audiobooks. But yeah, I feel like it takes me forever to read any book. But yeah, I do end up thus watching a lot more horror movies than
Yeah.
reading books. Have I read anything recently? I'm reading right now Waking the Moon by Elizabeth Hand, which is horror.
Ooh, I'm gonna
Have
have
you
to
read
check
that
that
one?
out. See, I haven't read anything horror based recently. Um, I've recently got into, it's called Horror Mance.
Okay, yeah, I've
Horror
heard.
romance.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, okay, I'm looking it up right now because it wasn't on my list originally, but now that we're talking about it, let me go find it. I think her name is Celia Andrews, and she came out with this series
Oh, cool.
that I am like currently obsessed with.
I love
Um,
that.
and it's got vampires and it's dystopian, which those are like all up my alley.
Yeah, say less.
Right? But as far as just like classic horror, like stuff like I would recommend to anybody, I mean, The Ring, The Grudge, those are
Mm-hmm,
kind of
mm-hmm.
like my thresholds. And if people come back and be like, "Okay, those were awesome," then I know to recommend more stuff.
The Japanese version or the American versions?
The Japanese one. Come
Of
on.
course.
Come on.
We had to clarify.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Her name is, I got it now. The book that I just finished is called Land of Shadow, and the series is called Fall of Dawn. Celia Aaron is the author. And so
Okay.
like the whole genre that she's in is called horror romance, horror
Mm-hmm.
romance. I'm just like, number one, that is the best blend of genres, like the name wise that I could think of, but
Yeah.
it's super good. And it's like it's gory, but there is a romantic aspect, and like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's very dystopian. So that kind of just like checks all the boxes.
Oh,
But
cool.
and then I mean, like my classic is Pet Cemetery. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that will always be like baseline best horror book. You know, like the one that
Yeah.
gave me nightmares. Still gives me nightmares. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, classic. You've read Gideon the Ninth, right?
Yes. Oh my! I mean,
I
it's been
love
like
that one.
years. It's been years.
I
Oh,
just finished rereading. This time I listened to the audiobook for Gideon the Ninth because it was included on Audible Plus. And I'm ending my Audible Plus membership, but before I ended it, I was like, I need to listen to that. But they only have the first book. They don't have like Harrow the Ninth or any of the
that's
sequels. So,
weird.
but I actually never finished reading the series. So I guess I'm going to have to like read some hard copy books because I do own Harrow the Ninth and Nona the Ninth. So I need to keep reading on the series.
Yeah, I feel
It's
like
so good.
when it first came out, I think it was one of those books like I was obsessed with it when it first came out. But then by the time the second book had come out, I was already like on to something else. So I never read the
Mm-hmm.
rest of them. But I remember Gideon the Ninth. That was kind of like my like introduction to that kind of like I would say it's more like dark dystopian. I don't know if that's really
Yeah,
like an actual genre, but it's like I mean, because of like the necromancer stuff
right.
and yeah, so I was so into that. And the cover, yeah, the
So
cover is
the covers are so
amazing.
good. And it
Yeah.
kind of reminds me almost of like Douglas Adams, like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but darker and like more profane.
Yep. Yep.
It was so much fun. And that kind of reminds me, like what you were saying about like following your own path and not following the trends, is that at the time when I first read Gideon the Ninth, I was trying to keep up with like the pace of Bookstagram where everyone is reading so quickly, like the turnover. And I feel like you're always trying to keep up with the next book, always moving on the next book, always trying. It's
Mhm.
harder to stay. It was harder for me to stick with a series
Yep, exactly.
when you're like always trying to move on to the next one, especially when those books are so big. But
Yep.
now I finally feel like I'm at a place where I can read what I want to be reading, and so I love that.
Well, Gideon the Ninth is one of those books like you know where you wish it was something that you read for the first time again.
Mm-hmm.
Gideon the Ninth is one of those books for me. It's like I wish I could go back and read it for the first time. You know, it's like
Yeah.
one of those nostalgia books. I probably could go back and read it and pretend it's my first time because it's been so long. I probably
Mm-hmm.
forgot most of it.
If you do, I want to hear updates.
Yes, for sure. I'll keep you posted. I'll send you my unhinged notes.
Nothing would make me happier. So, this season on the podcast, we are talking about folk horror movies and also folk horror books. But when you hear like the term folk horror, what comes to mind or like what defines the genre for you?
When I think of folk horror, I think of like more like regional stories. You know, like I grew up in South Texas, and like we had like chupacabra. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like that was a very like prevalent like story. You know, like don't go walking in cemeteries at night because you know chupacabra hangs out there and they're gonna get you. Like that kind of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like folk horror is definitely like more of like stories that are passed down, you know, so
Yeah.
it's not the same kind of story in every region. You know, every place has their own little like scary stories, and most of them are like to teach children, right, to not
Mm-hmm.
do stuff. And so I feel like the folk horror genre is basically like the F around and find out version of like when you don't listen to those stories and they are actually true.
Yeah.
I feel like they rely very much on like the rural
Mm-hmm.
communities or like villages that are kind of like stuck in the past. Like most, I feel like most like Midsummer, that comes
Mm-hmm.
to mind,
Mm-hmm.
like this like clash between what should be true based on what you know of the modern world and what is actually happening in these like rural small communities.
Yeah, and that rings so true. Like that is so relevant to the movie we're going to discuss because we definitely saw that contrast between the modern life and rural traditions.
But it's just, I feel like it's kind of more of like, it just kind of depends like where you grew up. And I feel like
Right.
that's kind of like a really cool thing about the folk horror.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the watcher's personal experience and the stuff that they grew up with and whether or not that reflects in that story.
And
you
it
know
might put both the watcher and the character, in this case, more out of their element than just all of the strange stuff that's happening because um, if you are not used to like that, the village did not have a road going to it and they had to pump the water and there wasn't a hotel and just all of these things that we kind of take for granted in life.
yes.
um you're not able to, and so it was also really interesting the degree to which you are relying on other people in this setting.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think, wasn't it in Indonesia is where
Yeah, and
the movie took place? And I
mhm.
wouldn't think of Indonesia as having villages still. Like when
Yeah.
I think of Indonesia, I don't think of a country filled with village. Like I think when I think of Indonesia, I think of like something similar to like Vietnam, where they have like a
Yeah.
ton of big cities and there's like lots of technology. I wouldn't think. I mean,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't say I know that much about Indonesia, but I just wouldn't like when I wouldn't think of Indonesia and be like, oh yeah, village with no road. You
Right.
know,
And
so
I think the village was on the island of Java, which is an island in Indonesia. And
wow.
from what I heard of like an interview with Joko Anwar, the writer and director, they actually found that was a real village. Like they actually found that village and they actually had to build a road.
Oh, to do the filming?
Yeah, but they said that the people were very nice.
Oh, nice. Well, that's good at
Yeah, they
least.
said they were like the village was
No
real, but
puppets, just no skin
not
puppets. Yeah.
the villagers from the movie.
Well, that's
um,
cool. I mean, and it's cool that they're able to actually like integrate with, a village that shows what the producer was trying to, mimic. It's cool
yeah,
that they were able to incorporate that instead of just building a set,
right.
you know.
Yeah, and that they really put the thought into the authenticity of like, what are we going to do? Are we going to build a set? Are we going to find
Mhm.
a real location to film on? This definitely gave me more of an appreciation for Joko Anwar and his work. Have you seen other Indonesian movies or other films by him?
I don't think so. I think Impetigore was just something I had come across because I want to say it was Midsummer. I think
Yeah.
I had watched Midsummer and then I saw someone else doing a review on it that had also mentioned Impetigore, like
Mm-hmm.
in that same vein. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if they like Midsummer, then I need to go watch this other one because they were putting it like on like a similar level to Midsummer.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And they
okay, well I
do.
have to go see it now. Like,
They
and
have
I
a lot
loved
of
it.
commonalities between the
Mm-hmm.
two movies. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
really good comparison. And when did Midsummer come out? Probably same year, 2019. I can't remember exactly.
Was it?
I can't.
I feel
Oh
like
my
it's been
gosh.
that long ago. Now we're doing all these Google searches.
I will edit them out.
Yeah, it's 2019.
Oh my god. So yeah, same years. So it's really interesting to look at the two side by side. And I know this one went to Sundance. So the other thing that I thought was so interesting in that interview I watched was that apparently, I think in 2019, there were 60 Indonesian horror movies that came out which I had no idea. For me, I've also seen Joko Anwar's movie, The Queen of Black Magic, which I guess is a remake of an older film, which made me curious as well. It was very gross in like a fun way. When I say a movie is gross, like if you want to see a lot of I don't know, people eating bugs, that's the sort of thing you'll experience with that movie. It was fun, and there were a lot of similar themes to this one, but I really have not seen very many Indonesian films, and I had no idea that there was such a huge market for Indonesian horror. But the producer was saying that horror is such a popular genre in Indonesia that they really, with this film, wanted to make it stand out, stand above the crowd, and it clearly did. And it came out like on an international level. Yeah. So that was awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll have to go do some more research besides just enjoying it for the gore.
It made me curious. It made me want to know more about wayang, the puppetry practice, and about like Indonesian folklore. Because I guess, Joko Anwar said that when he was a kid, someone told him about like puppets being made out of human skin, and that kind of gave him, it was like a rumor. That was like the kids telling stories to scare each other, and that's like what sparked the idea for this movie, was things he was scared of when he was a kid.
I mean, I feel like kind of like going back to what I was saying, like I feel like that's how a lot of folk horror gets started. You know, it's like these cautionary tales, that are scary, that are meant to be scary for, to be able to learn from it. And like sometimes it just like, I mean, because it's passed down from person to person or generation wise, I feel like it gets like the potential for it to get scarier and scarier just keeps kind of like a curse.
Yes.
And that's kind of the whole point of it. And so like, it's kind of like one of those things that's like you're bringing it to life just by carrying it on.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's so fascinating, and how it's so different, like I said, per region. Like what's scary for one region isn't scary for another. It's just like,
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that this film was very like based in, I think intentionally, in Indonesian culture and history, and like
you did a really good job like preserving it and showcasing the culture. I really liked that too.
Totally. So I guess since I mentioned human skin puppets, before we get too deep into the plot, should we do the 60-second recap? Probably.
Oh, yeah. It's my favorite part.
And do we want to flip a coin to see who does it? Or should I do it? Or what do you...
Let's flip a coin. Let's do it. Leave it to chance. Leave it to fate.
Me Googling coin flipper.
Technology.
Okay. Heads or tails?
Heads.
Okay. It's tails. So I guess it's me. I haven't done a 60-second recap in a while.
Do you need a warm up or?
I'm just gonna go for it. We're gonna have an adventure here.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Set. Go.
Okay. So there are two characters, Maya and her best friend Dini, and they live in Jakarta, Indonesia, and they are toll booth attendants. And there's one day where Maya gets attacked in her toll booth by this really creepy man who's kind of been stalking her, and he's trying to kill her. And he says some weird stuff, like he says her name is Rahayu, and she's from this one village. And I don't know, she survives. And that makes her more curious about her upbringing. So she was grew up with her aunt, and then she goes back to the village. She and Dini go back to the village, and stuff happens.
Is that what you're leaving it on? Because you got.
Oh, do I have more time? Oh, okay. And then they find out that Maya is Rahayu, and her family put a curse on the village, or so they believe. And there are no children in the village. It's very weird, and something suspicious is definitely going on there.
And cut.
Okay. I thought I had less time.
That's good.
Yeah. So could use some practice. But that was fun.
Have you seen? It's kind of like one of those pictures where it's like the horse, where it's like drawn like so pretty on the front, and the back it's like a stick figure.
Yes, exactly. Stuff happens.
The front of the recap was very detailed, and the back is like, and some stuff happens.
So I think I put this question in there. Is this movie folk horror? Why or why not? I think we pretty much discussed it is folk horror. And part of the reason is because like of the tropes it follows and that it is kind of based on that childhood scary story. Yeah, things that creep you out.
I think this one was kind of cool because like it was more of like dealing with curses.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we had talked about it in the last interview how a lot of like the Asian like paranormal, like kind of what makes it so scary is like you can't really get rid of the ghost. You know, you can't just like throw some holy water and it's gone and it never comes back.
Can't get rid of the ghost. Oh man,
with folk horror because like it's more of like the power of belief, right? So I thought a really cool aspect of this movie was kind of when what was her name, Rahit, the lady, like the one that was helping Maya, that she was explaining that curses don't really disappear, they just turn into other curses. And I was just like, oh no, like something's about to go down. Like, and that was kind of like the foretelling of, you know, what's really gonna happen at the end. You know, when Maya's like, oh yeah, I buried the puppet, it's all good now, and we're like, no girl, like it's all good.
It was so, oh my gosh, there's so many interesting metaphors or just messages in this movie. Like Rahit, I thought was so interesting in that in this village where everyone is kind of listening to her, obeying the village elder.
Misni, the mom.
Yeah, she is doing her own thing. And she's like, I know because of this information that my family has passed down that this curse cannot be broken the way that everyone is saying. So she is like diverges from the group. And like, I think that's like extremely brave, especially the way she was protecting Maya from everyone who wants to kill her. But also the interesting thing of just Maya trying to remedy, like everyone wants to kill Maya for her family putting, you know, them thinking her family has put this curse on the village, which, I mean, her family definitely is involved and not completely free.
Yeah, they weren't faultless, but it was Disney that started it all. And then like it's just so twisted how she just kind of like twisted it to her advantage.
Yeah.
To hide the fact that she was the one that actually started it all.
And especially thinking that like Maya, I mean, huge spoiler, but Maya's her granddaughter.
Yes. Yes. And to just like completely remove herself from that. Like she basically just made herself feel faultless. And that just like blew my mind. I mean, I remember when I was sending the notes, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How could she? But just like kind of like having the audacity. Can you imagine just gaslighting a whole village of people like that? Like that's some intense skill. But she was also feeding into that folklore, you know, and she was using that to her advantage. And I thought that was so manipulative, but also that's kind of part of the, I don't want to say charm, but that's what gives folklore that power, is the fear of what happens if you don't follow the rules.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, but except she was acting like all the villagers were her children, and she was giving this cautionary tale of like, oh, we have to go, you know, like it was the daughter that the dad took all the skins, and so now we have to go get her and get her skin, and that's how it's going to break the curse. It's like, no, don't get it twisted, lady.
Although he did take the skins. There, yes, and
yeah, but also it was you. So just thinking of like just being like that selfish to try and cover up her own, just because she was pissed that her son was sleeping with the wife.
Yeah.
Like, girl, like stay in your lane. Like, I mean, it's not good. Don't cheat on your spouse, but like, I don't think it's worthy of a curse either.
Right. That curse was very like extreme. That was an extreme curse. And it
Well, yeah, and then it just kind of like goes to show how like revenge spirals out of control,
yeah.
right? Because she made
Yeah.
that curse as in revenge for her son cheating on the lady, the wife, and so her revenge is kind of what fueled it to make it bigger than it ended up being. Because it wasn't just the daughter that ended up being cursed; the whole village ended
The
up with the
whole
curse.
village.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like revenge isn't worth it, you know. I feel like that was kind of like one
Right.
of the main. That was kind of one of the main themes of the movie. It was like revenge can get more out of control than what you
Right.
intended it.
And I
Mhm.
wonder what the meaning of that is like on a cultural or historical level, because we definitely saw a lot of like, I wish I knew more about Indonesian politics, but from what and this the good thing about this movie is that like I watched it yesterday, and since then I am like digging more into it, and I'm really
Mhm.
interested to know. Like I love when a movie sparks a curiosity, and I think that's one of
Yes.
the things that's so important about watching international films is that like they're scary, like they're entertaining and interesting on a surface level, but they also spark these questions that draw you deeper in. So
Yeah.
it occurs to me that what was her name? Nisi?
I think Misney. I don't
Misni.
know if I'm pronouncing it right.
I couldn't, I remembered Maya and Dini and Rahit, but of course did not remember
Yeah,
Misni.
I think Misni was Saptadi's mom, the one that made the
Okay.
curse.
So
Yeah,
she
yeah.
was kind of like a puppet master, like the real puppet
Yes.
master, if you think about it.
Yes, exactly.
Because her son,
Yeah.
I mean, is literally a puppet master.
Well, and so was the dad,
The dad,
the, the,
yeah,
the husband. He was also the puppet master,
and
right?
interestingly, these men who are literally puppet masters are also politicians in their community. Their leader
Hmm.
figures. Um, but I
It's
thought
funny
it
that
was
he put a woman in that role too,
mm-hmm.
because have you ever heard that saying like the man is the head of the house, the woman is the neck that turns the head?
That makes so much sense. Like I that makes sense as like a saying. Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's kind of like that belief that like while the man like looks to be like the one in control, it's
hmm
kind of like the women running the household that actually has more influence. And so
Yeah.
I feel like that's really popular in a lot of like Asian cultures.
hmm
You know, how like they put a lot of emphasis on that. So I thought it was very interesting that it was the mom and of course a woman that was giving the most influence of this movie.
hmm
And then for her to be
Yeah.
that vengeful, it kind of like tainted everything too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, like the action makers in this movie were the female characters. I
Hmm.
think like very
You
uh
know I eat that up, so
female strong. And I thought it was really interesting. I was looking at the Wikipedia page just earlier today, and I noticed that the poster, which I had not seen before, I'd seen other versions of the poster, but the poster that is on the Wikipedia is Rahit, Maya, and Dini all hanging upside down. Wait, I think,
really.
yeah, I'm Googling that
Ooh.
again. Yeah, or I guess
Oh, that just gave me the chills. Wah.
yeah. So I think that is, and also right in the middle of all of them is Misni. It's
Ooh.
a really cool. I'm kind of love this
I'm gonna have to go look it up
poster.
now because the other one I've seen is the one where it's like I think it's Maya's face and then the eyes are
Yes,
like yeah, that's the only one that I've
yeah,
seen.
that's the one I had
Ooh, I'm
seen
gonna have to go
before
look that up
too.
now. It's the yeah, that's creepy.
What would you say this movie contributes to the horror canon or the folk horror canon? Both.
I think it definitely leans more into the folk horror.
hmm
I mean, like I said, like if you didn't grow, see, I grew up in a country town, so like I feel like that kind of horror really hits home with me more because that's what I grew up with. But I
hmm
feel like if you're just looking at this movie at the perspective of being a horror, it's not as scary as some others, because like if you don't have that context of like the folk horror stories that you grew up with, I think it's harder to connect to
Mm-hmm.
that side. I mean, there's still like some gory stuff in this one. Like when they were making the puppets, the skin puppet was like, I was eked out by that. And like it's, I mean, it is very gory. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
like blood and stuff going on. But I think that goes in the back seat compared to the more like supernatural elements of the folk horror. So I think it
Mm-hmm.
definitely contributes more to that side of it, if you know what I mean. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was really interesting. So when I was watching this movie, I wasn't scared. I thought this movie was going to like absolutely like wreck me. And the only scene that really I found scary was the first scene, the opening scene,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which,
and too, that's funny you say that because that seems like something that could really, I mean, I want to say
yeah,
realistically, but it could happen to us because we
right.
use toll booths or like
Yeah.
we're familiar with them,
Just like a
right?
woman trapped in a situation where she can't leave, and there is a man who has been acting weird and like, is expressing violence towards her.
Yeah, isn't that creepy? I
Yeah.
mean, and maybe a man watching it. Where's Matt? Where's Matt when you need him? But like maybe a man watching it wouldn't be creeped out as much by that.
Yeah. I
So like
thought,
I feel like this movie had a really good way of getting under people's skin depending on their background.
mm-hmm. And I
Yeah.
think, maybe I'm digging into this too deep, but I know that like Joko Anwar with this movie wanted to make a point about the mobility of women and children in Indonesia. And like literally in this opening scene, you have a woman who is immobile and a man in a car. Like maybe I'm taking the metaphor too far, but I thought it was a really excellent opening scene, very chilling. Um, so well done. And it also told us within the first 5 minutes that Maya is a character who we are going to yell at, who is going to
Yep.
be like doing stuff where you're like,
Girl, open the
don't do that.
door.
Don't.
I was yelling. I'm like,
Mm-hmm,
what are
mm-hmm.
you doing?
Like, she is going to be making questionable decisions throughout this movie. I thought this movie was interesting, like contributing to folk horror and to horror in general. I mean, first of all, I think it's really clearly when there are so many Indonesian horror movies coming out, and this one is breaking out on an international stage, coming out on Shudder, going to Sundance, like I think that is major. I also think the way it brought wayang, which is this like traditional practice of shadow puppetry, into the public,
Drawing attention to it.
drawing attention to it, yeah, was really, especially like a cultural practice that may be losing like popularity, or maybe I know with in general all across the world right now, like these practices that are like traditional arts are,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to keep them alive in this
Mm-hmm.
time. And so I think um, really giving it life through this film, and in a really fun and creepy way. But also, I know that in relation to that, the way they filmed this movie was intended to replicate the shadow puppetry. Like they used one light source, and they
Mm-hmm.
would like the way that the scenes were staged. This was all in like the interview that I will post in the show notes, but they were talking about how they staged the scene so that the characters were interacting with each other in the same way that these puppets would in like this
Ooh, that's
show,
so
which
creepy.
is so creepy, so cool and well done. And also just it is a ghost story, but it was so different. I think one of the reasons I was so, I don't want to say not scared, but like it didn't affect me the way I was expecting was because it was not trying to do the same things that we're expecting to happen in horror movies. Like, they're in this house, you think, oh my gosh, a ghost is going to get them, something's going to happen, and really it didn't. Like, there's not something hiding in the shadows that's going to get you. There's not like with the times where we saw something creepy in the house, it was one of them, just under unusual lighting. So that was really cool. A new
You know
approach
what
to
it
the
kind
haunted
of
house
reminds
ghost
me
story.
of? It kind of reminds me of, like, like in The Ring, where the
Mm-hmm.
girl tries to trick them and say, like, oh, if you go get my body from the well, the curse will break and it'll be over. And it's like, haha, not really, just kidding. That's exactly what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
the story about the girls and the ghosts and Maya being able to see them, that was like a secondary story.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't even related to the curse. They were killed because of the curse.
Yeah.
And Disney was trying to cover that up. And so, like, I feel like Maya burying the bones with the body with the puppets and thinking, oh, okay, that'll fix it, had that same kind of vibe of, like, that didn't really, I mean, it's like putting a band-aid on a bullet hole, right?
Right.
That didn't actually solve the problem. It just solved that very small problem of those three girls that were killed by the dad,
Right.
you
And
know.
it's Maya trying to take accountability for her ancestors' actions, both her
Exactly.
father and her grandmother, but it didn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, when you were talking about, like, the way they were shooting the scenes, I noticed something like that too. And this is what freaked me out the most, was like the camera work when they kept zooming in to something and
Mm-hmm.
there was like nothing there. But
Yeah.
then, like, throughout the movie, they kept zooming in on some of, like, the same scenes, and then, like, towards the end, it kind of started all, to all come together, be like, holy shit! Like in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, like when the girls first got to the house, and the camera was just zooming in on the bathtub full of
Mm-hmm.
water, and then, like, you later find out, like, the guy was drowning the babies,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming back to the water, be like, oh my gosh, like, they're zooming in on that because it's becoming more prevalent later in the story of, like, what's really
Yeah.
happening in the village. So it's kind of like that, like, that very quiet foreshadowing,
Mm-hmm.
and that just creeped me out. Or, like, there was a time, like, where I think it was Deanie, they were sleeping and the camera just, like, zoomed into, like, over her shoulder, and there was
Mm-hmm.
nothing there. I'm just like, can you please stop doing that?
Yeah. And it was like not quite a misdirect, or not in the way you're expecting, because usually there's like, oh, in films it'd be like a zoom in, or if it's a misdirect it would focus on something and then there's a jump scare over here, but
Yes,
we're
you're
not getting
expecting the
that.
jump scare, and
Yeah.
it's like, stop zooming in on nothing. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but it wasn't nothing. It was, I mean, it ended up, like, if you were paying attention in the rest of the story, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much more sense. Why that was such a focus earlier in the story, and so I
Yeah.
really liked the camera work of this one.
Yeah. I guess I have a question that I don't think we'll be able to answer, but, and maybe I'll cut this out, but it occurs to me, like, if you know that you're going to have to kill these babies, like, are you, like, going through all the way with the pregnancy because there's a chance you won't have to? Or, like, I feel like you could use more protection.
Yes, I was wondering that too. And I wonder if it's kind of like a blind faith thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were so fervently hoping that their baby would be all right,
Mm-hmm.
that it was just, it's kind of like that blind faith.
Yeah.
They were all just so, they were, I mean, because you think about it, they were all blindly believing the Saptadi, and
Yeah.
he was blindly believing his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I mean, and it's kind of like that small town mentality too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Like,
like,
once.
you just want a kid so badly, you hope that yours is the odd one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And really, in this village, like we were talking about, there's no road. There's
Mhm.
no,
They're cut
like,
off entirely. Yeah.
completely cut off, very isolated. You are entirely reliant on your community. Like, you cannot
Mhm.
afford to be ostracized.
Mhm.
So what did Rahit said something really interesting, and I wish I remembered exactly what she said, but something along the lines of like, why does everyone listen to the village elder? And she was just like, who, we
Who
don't
else?
have, who else?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that also that can be very easily extrapolated on a large scale political level.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I feel like I said, like I didn't grow up in like a remote village, but I did grow up in a rural community, and there were
Mm-hmm.
definitely influential families, influential people in the community that like the mayor or the chief of police or what, like there were just those people that like even if they ended up being in some shady stuff later, they just blindly believed them because they knew the family, they knew their background, they knew their history. And like people who moved into town from out of town, not that like they were like completely ostracized, but they're just like, ooh, like you're
Mm-hmm.
not from here. So like I
Yeah.
feel like I
Yeah.
definitely got like that same vibe from Impetigore of like not really like dissing the outsiders, but just being like very cautious of them,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
and that's when they didn't realize that Rahayu was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
and I feel like that's kind of like a jab that the writer made, like she was one of them and they were still
Yeah.
treating her like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not even
Mm-hmm.
really about being part of the community,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because she was literally like the reason, and they were still treating her like an outcast. So it's not even
Mm-hmm.
about being a part of it, it's just the perception of being a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
absolutely. So, was this movie scary for you? And um, another question I have is like, what do you think, or how did the filmmakers evoke or manipulate the sense, like the audience's fear, especially knowing that they're trying to reach an audience on an international level who might not have this not understanding of Indonesian culture? That which I think is how did they evoke fear for the viewers?
I think kind of like going back to what you were saying, the camera work was on point. And I feel like it's kind of something you don't really notice. I think that's what makes it even scarier. Is like you don't even
Mm-hmm.
really notice how they're manipulating the camera shots to make it scarier than it, like when they're like walking through the house and the cameras are just like
Mm-hmm.
very like fixed, like you just feel like the character is just like walking into something and you're just a helpless bystander. You're just like, oh my god. Like
Yeah.
I feel like the camera work did a lot in this movie, which I mean, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But or like when I was talking about like with like the zoom, like the stuff that it was zooming in on, that I mean, a bathtub is not scary, but you keep zooming in on it like it's supposed to mean something to me. Then
Right.
it's like, am I missing something? Like,
Right.
and so I think
Yeah.
it's more of like the paranoia that
Mm-hmm.
got me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Totally. That's such a good way to express it. And especially I'm thinking about the opening scenes, not just the scene in the toll booth, but also when Maya is looking for Deanie. They're closing up their shop. It's after hours, and she keeps seeing like
Yes.
everyone looks spooky.
The
The
alleys.
the alley, it's all dark. There are those creepy dolls or whatever. Um, the way that none of those things in the movie were actually, I guess, a danger. I mean, as far as we can tell, nothing was actually trying to hurt her there. But like, just the paranoia. Like, this is
Mhm.
a really unsettling situation.
And now that I'm going back and thinking about it again, remember when they were talking on the phone and Deanie was complaining about the radio,
Mm-hmm.
saying like, "Oh, this song is so old, like it's making me feel old." And Maya said, "It's stuck.
Yeah.
It's stuck
Yeah.
on AM." Kind of, so
Right.
it kind of like has that thing too, like being stuck in the past, like
Mm-hmm.
being stuck in
Yeah.
the old ways. I mean, that's kind of like the
Totally.
whole point of the movie, is like she's being forced to go back and rehash her past and her
Literally.
family's
Yeah.
past, and
Yeah.
have to go back to that village that's, that folklore of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
There was so much to this movie, and it's one of those ones where the more you think about it, the more you find.
Yes. Now you want to go back and rewatch it to
Oh my
see what
gosh.
else you missed. Yeah. I mean, this is like my
Absolutely.
second time watching this movie too. There's still like I never caught on to the radio thing. I'm just like,
Right.
wow.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like so often the first time you watch a movie or read a book, you're doing it for the plot. And then the second time you do it for the craft. And you
Yeah.
can like, because then you're not trying to say, oh, what's this person saying? What's going to happen? You're like, oh, how is this person saying this thing?
Hmm.
It's really cool. And speaking of which, what do you think the film creators were trying to say? Is there anything else that we haven't really touched on in this area?
I mean, I think that the writer producers like I think they made a point of showing that like the sins of the parents shouldn't be the sins of the child,
Mm-hmm.
but they end up being the sins of the child. Like
Yeah.
especially like if the parents had passed away, it's kind of like I feel like it was kind of like that representation of even though she didn't know her parents,
Right.
she still had to deal with the repercussions of I mean, and even so, the people that she thought were her parents, only one of them was her parent.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like
Mm-hmm.
goes to show, like, like blood relations have nothing to do with familial bonds,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, and kind of like the unfairness of it all for her having to
Mm-hmm.
deal with the repercussions of her family that she
Yeah.
didn't even know. So I feel like
Yeah.
they kind of like they were very like on the nose about that. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting still the way this curse continues and the way there's probably not going to be any more children in this village as far as we
Yes,
can
that was something
tell.
else too. Because remember when Maya was asking Rahit, like, why can't you just let the babies live? And
Mm-hmm.
Rahit was saying that they would live a miserable life,
Mm-hmm.
and that there was one boy that they did let live, and he was out in the forest. I was like, where's that dude?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was a missed opportunity unless they're gonna do a second movie.
I thought they showed him.
Did they?
I thought they went out to the hut and he's like lying there. Yeah.
Maybe I was already scared at that point. But then,
um,
but then the
yeah.
curse was evolved to where the babies weren't even alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like I don't want to say like be grateful for what you have,
Yeah.
but like the curse before was like the babies were being born and they were still alive. They just didn't have skin and they would have miserable like they
Mm-hmm.
would live painful lives. And then the curse was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go up a level. So it's kind of like going
Yeah.
ahead, like like getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very interesting too. Like, out of all the ways for the curse to evolve, for it to attack the unborn children,
Yeah.
that was very interesting too.
Absolutely. And I
I
think
forgot
that
about the
there
guy in the
was.
hut. Just blocking that one out of my mind. Well, because like I just like when they first showed the baby without the skin,
Yeah.
I was heebie-jeebed. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like whenever the skin stuff was showing, I was like pointedly not looking because it just like eked me out so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I don't want to see a grown man with no skin. No, thank
And
you.
it kind of makes me think of like, when we look at the title of the movie, Impetigore, what does that mean? And I know that there's, what is it? How do you say it? Impetigo is like a skin
Yes, it's a
disease.
skin disease.
Yeah. So skin disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it fatal? I didn't even look that
I don't
up.
think so. I think Googling.
And that's kind of a thing too. It's a common, highly contagious skin infection.
Mmm. That's
And
gross.
see that too kind of circles back to the mindset of the village being infectious.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And especially if we think of these leaders, these village leaders, whoever is in power as like this puppet master,
Yeah, the
excuse me,
fear mongering.
the fear mongering, it
Hmm.
really is. I think there's a lot to learn from Rahit, who, despite, she of all people might actually have something like a reason to hate Maya
Oh
because
my,
her
when you
husband,
find out her husband,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I was
yeah,
so
it was
sad. That
really
was like the biggest
devastating.
plot twist.
Right.
When you
Yeah, it
start
was a
like putting it together, like, oh shit, like
right.
that was
And
her
she
husband.
and the way like Rahit is so she's so sharp. Like she knows that Maya is Rahayu from the
Mhm.
beginning. She still offers to shelter her and feed her even though she knows it is a risk to like and you can't afford to take risks and be ostracized. We've already talked about that.
Yeah.
And the way she even when she learns that her husband has died as a result of basically because of Maya, more or less. Maya didn't kill him, but I mean, I guess he tried to kill Maya and then he was shot. So it's,
But
but
see,
like,
I don't think he was really trying to kill her though, because
what
he
was he trying
stabbed
to
her in that
do?
specific part of her leg
Yeah.
to pull that paper out. And without that paper being pulled out, she would have never seen the ghosts.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
true.
I don't think he was actually trying to kill her. I think he was trying to just get her to go back to the village.
Mm-hmm. It was, but either way, he's wielding a machete, which
Yeah.
is.
Well, yeah, either which way. He was scary at the time. Yeah.
um, but she, even after learning that her husband died, as like how
As a
her husband
result
died,
of coming in contact with Maya. Yeah.
mm-hmm, she
But also
still,
she's sad. Like it was kind of like a desperate,
yeah,
it was out of desperation. And like it makes you feel sad because Rahit was such a nice character
mm-hmm,
for something that unfortunate to happen to her and for her to be pregnant.
right,
And you know what's all
right,
going down in this, in like, so she knows that she's just as likely to be a part of she's just like to be a victim. And
mm-hmm,
like you said, like her still choosing to help Rahayu in light of everything that the village is doing, and her being ostracized. I mean,
yeah,
she just lost her, she didn't realize at the time, but she lost her husband, and
mm-hmm,
her grandma's old, so she already kind
mm-hmm,
of knew that she would be on her own, and
yeah,
still helped her. So like I feel like that was a very good like a virtue
mm-hmm.
character.
Absolutely. She is staying true to not just her values, but also her own knowledge and her, like,
Mm-hmm.
she's clearly smart. And she also says, I know that that's not going to break the curse. I know that killing you is not going to do that because I have this other, because of what my grandmother told me. Um, and I think that is really important in that when you have like a community that is so groupthink, that she
Minded.
maintained her individuality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I liked
Even if
Rahit.
it meant isolation.
Yeah, I think she was my favorite character. Well,
I,
and
I
Deanie,
agree.
but I was sad about Deanie.
Deanie
Like there
was
was that one
fun.
part when Maya was like, "I wonder why I don't have any baby pictures," and Deanie was like, "Maybe you were an ugly kid."
Deanie in that scene where like Maya wakes up in the middle of the night in this haunted house and is like something's going on and trying to wake Deanie up, and Deanie's like, "Do not talk to me right now. I am sleeping. I am so tired." I was like, "This is so relatable." She's
We
been on
all
a
have
bus
that
all
friend.
day.
I loved her.
So, shall we rate the movie out of 10 for scariness and for overall quality?
Yeah, you go first. I
Okay.
went first last time. You go first this time.
For me, scariness wise, I'm going to give this a 3 because I really was not scared during or like even, after watching the movie. I think it was a really complex movie and there is like so much to it, but it just didn't scare me apart from that first scene. Um for overall quality, this is hard because it was such a high quality film. I'm gonna give it a 9. I think I don't. Maybe that will go up. Maybe that will go down. But I think because of the way it collected, the way it incorporated both. It had this story that was accessible to so many audiences worldwide. It used these like great camera work and these lighting techniques that were evocative of this traditional shadow puppetry, and also like the commentary it made about history and culture. I think that was really well done.
I agree. I agree with you on the quality. I would give it a 9 too. And not just because of the camera work and the I want to say graphics, but like, you know, the gore
Like
factor. I
visuals. Oh
forgot what
yeah.
that's
Oh
called.
yeah. I
The
forgot about the
practical,
gore
yeah, well, the practical uses,
effects.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the practical effects. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, you know, there's a lot of movies that rely very heavily on CGI and
Mm-hmm.
technology, and I feel like this movie was like intentionally looking simple, but you can
Mm-hmm.
tell it wasn't simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like it just seemed so effortless. Like you were really living in the village. You were
Mm-hmm.
really experiencing what they were. I feel like that's a very hard thing to compete with
Yeah.
into, you know, against stuff like CGI. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
you think you compare Impetigore to Final Destination.
Oh my gosh.
Like the
Yeah.
graphics is completely different, but I feel like the quality is the same
Mm-hmm.
with, even without with or without the graphics. I agree with you on
Mm-hmm.
that. I think the quality was a 9.
Yeah.
Just because of how well they captured the feel of it. And like I said, like I was paranoid for most of this movie. So I would give it like a 6 for scariness because
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
damn camera kept freaking me out all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
putting it on things that didn't seem scary but ended up being scary. So I feel like they just
Mm-hmm.
did a very good job. Like with the camera work is very intentional, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that lent a lot to the paranoia for me.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, like having like being like in that, I don't want to say similar setting, but like being exposed to that kind of folklore,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, stuff like don't go walking on graves in cemeteries, or don't go
Yeah.
walking in cemeteries after dark, or don't, like those kind of like superstitious things. I think they did a really good job of capturing, like you said, like capturing the culture of it. And I just
Mm-hmm.
think it's so, I thought it was really interesting. So I would give it like a 6 for scariness, 9 for quality.
I
But
think that is
I
very
really liked
valid.
it. I think it was more scary than Misery.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
But I think Misery
Uh
was a different kind of scary too. That's more of like just a relatable. Like I
right.
hope it's not relatable.
Fingers crossed. So as we're wrapping up, can you remind us where people can find you and your work?
Yeah, for sure. I have my own website. It's authorjcmurphy.com, all one word. I'm also on Amazon. You can find me on Barnes and Noble. Yeah, I'm pretty much anywhere you can find a book, you can probably find me. But my website has all of my books laid out, and, you know, kind of news on what's coming up. So that's probably the
And
best place to find me.
you mentioned the special editions, which are your special editions are really cool. And that's probably your website, I'm assuming, is where
Yeah.
people can find those too.
Yeah. If I have, I mean, I try to do special editions, you know, at least once a year. So whenever those are rolling out, I'll have them on my website. You know, I only sell the special editions through my site.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are interested, I do have the special edition still for Don't Fear the Reaper, because I celebrated its 1 year anniversary in
Congratulations.
December. So that was the last special edition. So I still have some of those on my website. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have, you know, whatever remaining copies of Earth Mover when it comes out on the 28th. So those will be
Yeah.
all on my author JC Murphy with an EY. You know, it's so funny. Even Amazon, like even if you type in JC Murphy EY, it automatically corrects it to Y and then says, "Did you mean to look for JC Murphy EY?" I'm just like, "Fool, I already typed it in."
Yes.
Like you're so I didn't
I
realize it was such
obviously
an
did.
uncommon spelling, but here we are. So yeah, Murphy with an EY. But yeah, you can probably find me on Amazon's probably the easiest, but I do have my own website. So
Yeah. Any final words?
I just wanted to say thank you so much. I am so looking forward to the rest of the full core season. I saw y'all had some really cool movies coming up. I wish I could be on every single episode because I would totally geek out over those, but I'll be watching from the side or listening from the sidelines. And yeah, I'm excited to see the rest of the season.
Well, we are excited also we're excited for Earth Mover, but also just like I need you to watch Barbarian and then tell me everything you think.
I'll be in the group chat. You, me, and Nanya.
Nanya will be like, do not talk to me about this scary movie.
And eventually we get on the episode with Matt. Where is he these days?
He's actually going to China this month he's on tour with Vansire. So I saw him yesterday, but the reason he has kind of left the show is because he's touring so much. So he just
good for him. Good for you, Matt. But hopefully I'll catch you and Nenya next time. You know, I'm always good for the show.
And we have like such a good time interacting with you. Talking to you obviously on the show, but also interacting with you online. And I guess thank you everyone for listening. You can find us on Instagram at horror/stories_pod. There we have, tons of fun stuff. If you want to visit our link tree, we have links to a bookshop.org storefront where you can find we have like all of our guests who are on our show. We put like a book list where you can find all their books, so that if you want to easily find JC Murphy's books, you can do it through that. And we do receive a small percentage of proceeds, so I do have to disclaim that. But yeah, you can, if you liked this episode, give us a rating or subscribe to the show or subscribe to our Instagram. And you should also follow JC Murphy on all of her platforms and read her books and tell us what you think, because we're excited.